The average price of gas is still above $4 a gallon as we enter week 8 of the war in Iran. Now, that price is down since last week, but still far higher than before the war began. So when could Americans see gas prices down below $3 a gallon again? Well, here's what the Energy Secretary Chris Wright told Jake Tapper on State of the Union.
I don't know. That could happen later this year. That might not happen till next year. But prices have likely peaked, and they'll start going down. Certainly with a resolution of this conflict, you'll see prices go down.
This morning, President Trump talked to the Hill and undercut his own Energy Secretary, rather. He said, quote, "No, I think he's wrong on that, totally wrong." I'm joined by a very smart group of reporters today. CNN's Manu Raju, Emily Davies of The Washington Post, and Estelle Herndon with Vox. Let's talk about energy and gas prices. Manu, it's not surprising that the president hears one of the people who work for him talking and probably saying something that is, not probably, almost definitely saying something that is true based on the data that he's looking at, that gas prices are not going to come back down, and gets upset about it. Never mind that I remember watching the president's interview with Maria Bartiromo last Sunday.
Yes.
And he said something similar. He said it could be around the midterms. They could go up, they could go down, or it could be even higher.
Yeah,
a little bit higher, he said.
He said it could be even higher. That's exactly what I was just about to say. He literally said that at that moment. When he said that, it immediately stuck out because the message from the Republican Party since the onset of this war has been, don't worry, gas prices are going to come down. It's okay. They don't have a plan to deal with gas prices. Their plan is to hope the war ends and that Americans will start seeing relief. So when the president starts saying something that completely undercuts that, that's one thing. And then he hears his energy secretary speak the truth, because gas prices, as we know, they go up very quickly and they take a very long time to subside. And this is going to be a real political problem. The speaker knows it, the party knows it, which is why they're not quite sure how they're going to deal with it.
Emily, I know you've been traveling out. I know you were in Iowa. Maybe you've done other traveling since you and I last spoke. But talking to voters who are going to decide whether or not to blame Republicans for the way that they see the economy going, gas prices specifically. And as you answer, I just want to show a latest poll from over the weekend. This is a Quinnipiac University poll. How much do you blame President Trump for rise in gas prices? 65% say a lot or some.
Yeah, so I was in Nevada and Arizona last week and Iowa the week before. So I feel like I've talked to people from a lot of different parts of the country who feel different ways about the gas price issue. But one thing I will say is it feels still a little bit early to draw conclusions because, to your point, gas prices go up so quickly that I think voters intuitively believe the president that they will also come down quickly. Like, it doesn't really make sense to somebody who's not following the intricacies of the market that it would take so long for them to fall. And so it's still been a relatively short period of time. They're believing him that the second he kind of decides to end the war, gas prices will fall. But right now, there's certainly, as you see there, a lot of frustration, and that's reflected in conversations I've had.
Yeah, it feels like the back and forth with the Energy Secretary speaks to something I think it's hurt Trump consistently in the second term. You can't really acknowledge reality, and even his Energy Secretary doing so in words that he has similarly said has caused some of his ire. And I think it just speaks to some of how a lot of these crises are self-imposed. Like, voters can, I think, and I've heard some, make the association between tariffs and the rising inflation. And Donald Trump has really made that easy for folks because it's not as if these crises were imposed on him. They're ones that he has driven. And so I think it's been reflected not just in the polling you showed, but his approval ratings now in the 37%, lowest he's seen. And we see some signs of disapproval rating rising.
Let's show. We
among
actually
some
have one we were going to
Republicans,
show.
too.
Let's put it up on the screen. This is from NBC. This is about President Trump's handling of the war. And this is approval, which I think probably is driving the rest of his approval ratings. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I was saying that there was the right track, wrong track numbers in that polling are the highest since it's been in his second term. And, as I was was mentioning the Republican approval rating, the amount of Republicans who say they strongly approve of him is going down too. And so I think although there has been some question about whether the schism in MAGA among, the Megyn Kellys or Tucker Carlson's represented his true coalition, it could be that they're more of a leading indicator and that we're going to see the public, particularly as gas prices come through the summer, might show more of that split on the Republican side.
I mean, the real problem is that they never, even from the beginning of this war, ever really sold it to the American public. So we came in knowing with very low, people didn't want to go to war to begin with. And typically, and when we've seen in conflicts past, war support for war decreases over time. And that is exactly what happened here. He already started at a low point. It's getting worse. And especially as people are getting hit with high gas prices. I hear some members of Congress tell me, well, as constituents, voters, they're okay with, it's a patriotic duty to pay more for gas because of prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But that is not the message that a lot of Republicans are saying right now.
And it's about the expectation game. One of President Trump's ticks, if you will, has historically been 2 weeks. Anything has going to happen in 2 weeks, whether it's a plan or something is going to end or going to begin. That has been the case since the beginning of this war with Iran. Let's watch.
It's going to be finished pretty quickly.
I do see a deal in Iran, yeah.
Mr. President.
Could be soon.
We are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close.
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over.
I will say the war in Iran is going along swimmingly. We can do whatever we want. And it should be ending pretty soon.
It's going to end soon. So that's what the people are hearing, and it's not happening.
It's here. It's going to end soon. It's going to end tomorrow. It's going to end in 2 weeks. And I think Manu's point is an important one. That comes after they never laid out a clear reasoning to the American public going into this, never coordinated with allies. And I really think Trump, across the board, has lost a lot of credibility and narrative-setting power in this second term. And so I think he's used to being able to say, I'll do this then, or I'll do that then, and the base only will follow along. And it's not as if we're seeing like a huge thing in terms of the numbers, but I think that power, that determinative power, is getting less so. And so you're seeing some of those cracks among Republican caucus. And I just think more so, his MAGA coalition went beyond the strict party. And so those type of people he brought in are the ones most likely to be upset by some of these actions.
Yeah, I mean, when 2/3 of people responding disapprove of the way you're handling the war, it's not great. And obviously they know that at the White House, which is why they have talks coming and they're trying desperately to wrap it up.
Do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be. Or the same, or maybe a little bit higher.
How much longer will Americans continue to see these high gas prices?
Well, they're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon, with the danger that entails.
President Trump pushed back on Energy Secretary Chris Wright's comments this morning, telling The Hill that Wright is, quote, totally wrong, his words, totally wrong about it potentially taking until next year for gas prices to drop below $3 a gallon. Let's go live right now to our senior business reporter, David Goldman. David, how should consumers interpret these very different messages from the White House? And when might we actually start seeing gas prices returning to what they were before the war with Iran?
And you need to add in Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said last week that we could have gas with a 3 in front of it in the summer. So what does that mean? Is it $3.99 or is it 3 with a couple zeros in front of it? There are active questions about when we would actually see $3. The thing to know is that oil needs to come down to historically around $60 a barrel before we start to see sub $3 prices, and we are nowhere close to that right now. We're in the 90s right now, closing in on 90 for U.S. oil, and what we don't know is when we're going to see that strait reopened. There's a lot that needs to happen before then, and so that's where we are right now with a big question mark about the future path of gas prices.